Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are very, very happy to have you with us today. It is season 10, wherein we discuss all of the ways in which you can live a limitless life. We go into depth about various how-tos, and I'm excited about today's show because it is near and dear to my heart. It's something that changed my life, and I could really probably talk about until I'm blue in the face. I did the outline for this and did the research, which was silly because I didn't need to, but I did it anyway. And today we are talking about meditation and how to meditate, not just why it's so good for you, which we have talked about at length. We are going to talk about the nitty-gritty of how to and how to deal with, obstacles that get in your way of meditating. So before we dive into the details of our topic for today, let me welcome my fantastic co-host Tova to the show. Tova, how are things going for you today?
Well, it is Monday, and that is exciting, I think. I don't know. Mondays?
Maybe.
Maybe. It is. It's a Monday, and I don't know. I never thought I was one to be in the seasonal depression side of things. Like I like wintertime. Like
Yeah.
I like the hibernating of it all. I like the hot beverages year round. But I really, really like winter. But yesterday it was warm enough to open the windows. And I tend not to do that early in the season just because of allergies and letting all the allergy stuff in. But I figured it was really cold recently, so there wasn't that much floating around the air just yet. And also, we had so much sickness in the house, I wanted to get it
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
And so it felt so nice to have like the windows open, and I was baking Irish soda bread, and it just like there was a feeling that I was like remembering being alive. And I think it may have also just like not feeling sick. Like I went for a long walk, and so I think it was kind of this perfect storm of like not being sick and also remembering springtime. And not that, I mean, we didn't even have a particularly harsh winter. And I frankly would be very excited if like a blizzard popped up tomorrow. Like I love the winter, but I don't know. There was just something very nice about yesterday. And as I told you, we were actually supposed to be recording one of my outlines today, but instead I decided to get all the laundry away. Like down to the socks and the hanging. And it just, I don't know, it felt nice to just like have some calm in the house.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to carry that as far into Monday as possible. A big project at work was over. It was due at midnight on Friday. Thanks to my sickness, I finished it around 11:50 on Friday. So yeah, I'm hoping to take some good cheer into Monday morning, see how long it lasts. Also, just as an aside, today was my due date 8 years ago. And it was also a Monday, no, it was a Friday. But March 4th which is when we're recording, is like the only date, if I'm correct, that is a sentence, because
Oh,
it's like March
yes.
4th.
I really had to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was my due date
Okay.
8 years ago. And as with all my children, even the third did not arrive when he was expected to. And I had a haircut scheduled for today because at that point I did not expect him to arrive on his due date.
I don't know anyone who I actually don't think I do know anyone who had their child on the due date that wasn't like a scheduled cesarean or something like that.
No, I mean, it's more of a estimate,
Yeah,
obviously.
definitely.
Um, but my kids definitely liked to stay in a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit longer.
Neither
And
neither of mine would have been delivered without some help
I mean, neither
making
of
it
my
happen.
first two, they didn't need too much help. Well, no, they both needed some medical intervention, but they both got started because of really like changes, like pressure systems, like big thunderstorms coming through and changes in thunderstorms. And then they needed, and so it kind of got the labor going, and then they got stalled because they were like, oh no, wait, just kidding.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't want to be coming.
Well, so this is interesting because the start of my, well, I'm not going to say the start because I've been meditating my whole life, like since I was a kid, mainly because of my mom, but like it's something I've always just done naturally.
Hmm.
But my sort of really deep journey with guided meditation started with my first child and
Mm.
started in preparing for delivery. And because I was truly terrified of the process of having not, not making one, but like, but getting one out into the world, um, I did hypnobirthing.
Mm.
And for anyone who doesn't know, hypnobirthing is a sort of a guided meditation practice that you would use during labor. And I did that and I did it with both my husband and my mom. Like I practiced with both of them. And I distinctly remember being in labor with my daughter and they had to induce, and it was like, it was pretty traumatic. It was a very, both my deliveries were very traumatic for me, and for my kids, to be honest. Um, but during the process of laboring with her, um, I have this very, very distinct memory of my mom going through one of the hypnobirthing methods, because there's like, without going into too much detail, there's like a million different meditations that go along with the training. And so she's doing one with me while I'm in labor and really like in a lot of pain. And I distinctly remember like leaving my body. Like I just left my body for some period of time. And it was so relieving and it was so freeing from the circumstances I found myself in. And that memory stuck with me so clearly through, and to this day I remember it so clear. It's like one of the few things I very clearly remember about that time. And it pushed me to pursue like a more routine guided meditation practice, and then eventually not even guided, just a meditation practice, because the way that it made me feel was so deeply connected to the world around me and disconnected from my body, which
Mm.
is what I wanted at the time, obviously, because I was in pain and who wants to feel that? Um, but like being able, knowing that I could do something like that was really empowering and really brought me to want to learn more and practice more meditation. Um, and so it's interesting we started talking about our birthing stories or whatever, because that is really where like the the depth of my practice started.
Well, it's interesting that you said that your meditation experience, helps you take yourself away from your body,
Well, not all the
where
time, but
not
in
all the
that
time, but in
instance,
that
yes,
instance.
sometimes it grounds me to my body.
Right. Whereas I think oftentimes that and I do when I meditate, I do when I meditate as part of a practice, like when I go, I'm going to sit down and meditate, like in that kind of setting.
Hmm.
Um, it's often guided. I prefer guided because when I'm in that type of setting, I, I have a lot of intrusive thoughts. Um, my whole world is intrusive thoughts. And so I like to be taken on a journey. I like to be taken through a cave. I like to be taken through a
Yeah,
forest or, and that does take me out of my body. And it takes me someplace that I can then go to at a later time.
right.
On the other hand, when I am somewhere where I need to calm myself, So I take back to, you had a traumatic experience at birth. I'm thinking back to the water slide at the Great Wolf Lodge just last weekend. Not
Yes.
not quite the same type of
Not,
trauma.
no, but still terrifying.
Still terrifying. And I'm thinking about, I'm in this, and what I've come to realize is I may have a little claustrophobia. I've just been in denial of it for most of my life. I just have been like, no, I'm not claustrophobic, but I'm like, my palms start to get sweaty as I think about like the plastic door shutting around me.
Yeah,
And I cross my arms and I cross my legs and I just close my eyes because if I close my eyes, it's not there,
right. If
right?
you can't see them, they can't see you.
Yeah, and if I can't see it, then clearly I'm not trapped in a plastic tube.
Right, right.
But then I did these breathing exercises and I focused on bringing everything into my body and calming my breath and then calming my breath to the point that I could slow my heartbeat, right? Where everything's slowing down. And I am just like taking deep breaths. And then suddenly I'm racing down and I'm like, oh, wait, this is supposed to be a fun ride. I should open up my eyes and enjoy this because it's going to be over before I know it. And I'm going to be so calm that I won't get to experience the fun. But I have done that at other places where I'm somewhere else. And like you said, in that case, meditation is for me a grounding experience,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. Well, let's back up as we always do and start at the beginning of like we're going to breeze through this a little bit because we've talked about it so much, but let's start at definitions and talking about what meditation is and then some of the misconceptions and challenges people experience when thinking about meditation. So to start out, meditation is very simply to engage in contemplation or reflection. On a more deep level, that's like it's engaging in a mental exercise, right? So it might be a breathing exercise, it might be repetition of a mantra, it might be like we've been talking about guided. There's all, and I'll get into all the different types of meditation later. But the point is that it's for the purpose of reaching a heightened level of either spiritual awareness,
Mm,
personal, like self awareness, or connection with the world around you. The the goal is a part of the definition. Um, and the goal is also to cultivate mindfulness. It can reduce stress and enhance your overall well-being. We'll get into some of the benefits in a few minutes. But I think one of the biggest obstacles for people to even think about meditation is the fear of getting started and the thinking that like I can't do it. And so let's run through this list I have here of misconceptions and sort of try to break some of those down for anyone out there who's listening who's like, yeah, meditation's nice, but like I can't just sit still and be silent. Okay, well, that's one of the misconceptions about meditation, right?
yeah.
This sort of all or nothing thinking. Like, if I can't sit still for 20 minutes in silence and not let anything else come into my brain, then I can't meditate. That's not meditation. I mean, it is for some people, but it is not the only way in which one can meditate. So a lot of us have unrealistic expectations about what meditation looks and feels like. Um, Another misconception is that there's only one kind of meditation, right? So, like I just said, it's not just sitting in silence, um, emptying your mind. If you can get to that place, awesome. It's great. And when you do it, it feels really good. But when you start out meditating, you're probably going to meditate for 2 to 3 minutes and all kinds of thoughts are going to run through your brain while you're doing it. It's still meditation.
Mhm.
It's still the practice of meditating. Um, and then, that that you're ever going to be perfect at it, right? Like, so if you're a perfectionist like me, you might struggle to start things because you feel like you have to be perfect before you even start, which is completely irrational and illogical, and you can't be because that's just not how the world works. But if you are a perfectionist, it might feel like if I can't perfectly meditate, then why am I doing this? Meaning,
Right.
like, if I can't sit still and think about nothing but my spiritual connection to the world for 20 minutes at a time, then then it's not worth it. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
Oh, go
Well,
ahead.
and I want to, highlight what you're saying, because we're saying, and I know we're going to talk about how to, but if people are like, okay, but what does that mean? It means you can go for a walk and meditate. It means
Right.
you can be standing and meditating. It means you can lay down and meditate. It means that there's lots of tips to however you like to visually let it happen. It means that you can let the thoughts pass through. Um, it means, if you are, I mean, if it's really, really hard for you at the beginning, it means you put a notepad next to you. And when a thought comes in, you jot it down
Yeah.
and then you let it go. And then as time goes on, hopefully you can let it go without jotting it down. Like whatever happens. But sometimes and I can sit and meditate for 15 or 20 minutes. I still prefer guided meditations just because I enjoy them and I just enjoy them. But I love a walking meditation, right? Because so often, even though I walk every single day, and even though I try to take pictures so that I'm engaged and looking and stuff, sometimes I walk and I come back and I don't even remember what I saw, right? And so a walking meditation will often have me looking at the trees and checking in on my senses and things like that. And that in itself can be a really neat way to meditate. Um,
Yeah.
so as you're going through this list of this is what it's not and this is what it's not, I think it is so important to know that what these are the things it's not, because that gets out of people's heads, but also this is what it is. Like it
Yeah.
can be all sorts of things.
So when I say I've been meditating my whole life, I want to clarify and say, like, when I was 10 years old, I did not know I was meditating, right? I
Right.
didn't sit down in some Zen like space and, convene with my spirit guides. Like, I wasn't that kid, but I know looking back that there were things I did that were meditative and were designed to help me cope with stress, deal with family dynamics, like feel connected to something bigger than me. There were all kinds of things I was doing that were designed to have that kind of outcome. And now looking back, I recognize, oh, that really was meditation. That really was like,
Mhm.
until later, in my 20s or whatever, when I actually started meditating, like, and did it intentionally. But the reason I'm bringing that up is so that you all understand you may already be meditating, right? You may already have meditative practices in your life and you don't realize that you're doing it. And now you can put a name to it and be like, I meditate. I sit with my coffee quietly every morning for 5 minutes and think about, you know, what I'm grateful for. That is a meditative practice.
Yeah.
You just may not have realized that you're doing it. A couple of things I also want to talk about in terms of like myth busting, right?
Hmm.
Meditation is not selfish. It is not selfish to take time to feel either connected to yourself, the world around you, God, whatever you want to call it. That's not a selfish practice. And even if it was, like, it's okay to be selfish sometimes. Um, but it's not, so it doesn't matter. And it is also not always relaxing. Like, one of the things I want us to get into is what, and we're going to talk about this next, is like how you decide what kind of practice you want to undertake has to do with what kind of outcome you're looking to achieve, right? If
Hmm.
you want to be relaxed and calm and reduce stress, then you're going to do a meditation practice that leads to that. If you want to feel more connected to Mother Nature or God or the universe or other people, you're going to do a practice that leads to that. There's all different kinds of practices that will create different kinds of outcomes. And so it's not that, it's just for religious or spiritual people or super wooey people like myself. It's not just that it's about being like, I'm so calm and relaxed, although that is lovely. It's for all different kinds of things. So I want you guys, as you're listening, to just sort of try to open your mind to all the possibilities it could be and like remove that stereotype of a yogi sitting in the corner staring off into space and being, like absent. um because that's, that's one way to meditate, but not all the ways.
Yeah, and
So, nope, go ahead.
no, I was also going to say, and you said this, but also like like you've said this, but you haven't said it as directly. Like it's not just for someone who's religious. It's not just for
Yeah.
someone who's spiritual. It can be for anybody, and it can be for anybody who, um, maybe meditation isn't the word for you. Maybe it's, I don't know, you like 5 minutes of silence each day.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's better for you. Call it your
Yeah.
silent time.
Or, like maybe you're communing with nature or connecting with other humans or
Right,
taking a
right,
break from your family. Like,
right.
it doesn't matter what you call it. What it matters that you do it, right? So, how do you figure out what the right technique is for you? Tova, how do you decide on guided meditation for you? Do you remember?
Yes, I tried Headspace and I tried Calm, and then I tried Headspace, and then I tried Calm, and I tried them both for years because I was going to meditate on my like to-do list every year for many, 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 many years because I knew the benefits and I knew
Yep.
I would benefit from it. And I would start those like um those those courses that would be like, here's your course to start you meditating. And the problem, excuse me, that I had with a lot of those learn to meditate courses is that they weren't guided meditations. They were like 5 minutes of silence and deep breathing. And it
Yeah.
was like so boring. And my brain wanted to explode of boredom. And also very stressful of like let the thoughts in and let them out. And I'm like, what if they want to stay? Like, I don't know what to do with them. And then I started working with a coach. And she first of all exposed me to Insight Timer. And I love Insight Timer as a
Yeah.
place for free meditations. Or you can pay, but it's also free. And then she assigned me meditations. So when, like, depending on where I was, what I was working through in my life, or what I was hoping to. So whether it was, wanting a focus on abundance, or whether it was just needing some more peace. Like, I mean, there have been times where, Riley, you and I have talked where like I want to have be working on abundance meditations, and really I just need meditations that bring me calm. Like I can't have the aspirational
Right.
meditations.
Right.
But she found ones that fit, and I like the guided ones. I found ones that I liked, and some are guided in that they have people talking. Like they're not all taking you on a journey through a place, but I have a few that I really like that I go back to. And what I like about the ones that do take me to places is that I can then go there even when I'm not meditating.
Right.
So and I would argue that I am then meditating for 30 seconds, like somewhere else throughout the day, right? Like I can take that feeling with me, or I can be reminded of that feeling or that sensation somewhere else. And it can be really powerful.
Yeah.
So, but it was the combination of finding um, the right like app. But I'm sure that Calm and Headspace also have great stuff if I had someone finding it for me and telling me this is what to listen to.
Yeah, I think they all do. It's like with anything, you have to find what fits for you. It's like it's
Yeah.
dating basically, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
But
going
it
to
was
try
it
it
was
all out.
incredibly helpful having someone tell me, right? And this is just doesn't highlight, like this is a big difference between a therapist
Yeah.
um
And a
and
life
a
coach of some
coach, right?
sort.
It's like, so a therapist, like at the time that I was working with my coach and getting into meditation, I was also going through the pandemic and a divorce.
Right.
And so my therapist was dealing with like those things. Like there was like heavy things to deal with, right? Like the therapy and the pandemic and the divorce, and it was very stressful. So we were dealing with that. And the coach was also dealing with that, but in a different way. And so we were approaching it we were doing meditation, and my therapist and my coach both knew what each other were doing, but they could do it in a different way, and they complemented each other really well.
Right.
And so one was not a replacement for the other one, and I don't think they should be. Um, I mean, one went to school for a very long time and has many, many degrees, and one wasn't, like doesn't. And in her case, but she knew what I needed at that particular moment and
Right.
provided it for me, right?
Right.
And those recommending those meditations, and then being for me to be able to say like this worked and this didn't. And I think also getting being able to say and learning, and this was a big thing for me, um, I don't like that meditation, rather than I'm not good at meditating.
Yeah.
That's, I think, a really big thing that we all have to learn when we're trying anything new. Um, you and I and our needlepoint, which I'm just going to keep talking about on the podcast so people
Yeah.
start
Until we
holding
do
us
it.
accountable. Um, like if we start needle pointing and I don't even know, is that the verb?
I don't know.
Needling,
We'll find out.
pointing. Um, and we do one and it's like that. I didn't like that. I mean, maybe they're all the same. I don't know. I don't know enough about needle pointing. But like with meditation, I can assure you they're not all the same, right? So
No.
maybe you don't like guided meditation. Maybe you don't like someone in your head the whole time.
Yeah.
And you just want the sounds in the background, or maybe you don't want anything in the background. I believe it was with you, Riley, that was it with you where there was one, it was like a week long or a month long, where they worked up to just like it was like the 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 bell. Like so it was like extending how long you could go
Right.
with silence. And I couldn't believe how long I could go eventually. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But had I jumped in as 5 minutes, it would have been the longest 5 minutes of my life, right? So, but I think um, learning that something isn't a good fit for you, or you didn't like that particular meditation, or you can't be walking, you don't like the walking ones, you want to be sitting in your yogi position in the corner, or vice versa, is so important to learn.
Yeah. So I think what it comes down to is there's a lot of trial and error involved, and you
Yeah.
have to be willing to try something and not like it and not give up, right? What I mean is you don't have to keep doing that type of meditation, but
Yeah.
try a different type. There are so many kinds of meditation. I have excuse me, I have like a list of 9 here that doesn't even cover all of the types of meditation. You can go from mindfulness meditation, spiritual meditation to transcendental meditation, which is like real deep. You could do progressive relaxation, body scan meditation. I do this with my kids a lot for bedtime. Um, you can do movement meditation, which we've been talking about. And that is like, like Tova was saying, like you're walking, or maybe for me, I do this sometimes when I'm hiking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you could, if you're a cyclist, you can do it then. Please be careful doing that. Um, but there's all different kinds of meditation. One I really liked, the research calls it focus meditation. I call it sensory meditation. And it's really when you focus on any one of your 5 senses. And if you have anxiety or you struggle with anxiety in any way, this is a great type of meditation because it helps you ground into your body. Where if you're focusing on just what you can see or just what you can smell, or any of those sensory things, it helps you really be present, and it goes along with that, like, I'm here, this is now type meditation, which I find super helpful in anxious settings.
Yes.
So like I said, it's a lot of trial and error, and you know a willingness to maybe be a little uncomfortable, be a little unsure, and see what happens. Um, it also helps if you have a space, unless you're doing a walking meditation or whatever. It helps if you have a space wherein you're comfortable. Um, something where you aren't getting dings from your phone or from your computer, where somebody's not going to walk into the room. If you're me, if your cat's not going to jump on you, like a space where you can have silence, and really just focus in on the meditation that you're doing. And I will say, if you want to do a meditation while you're walking, hiking, cycling, whatever, don't pick that day to wear your uncomfortable clothes, right? Like, so, we all have them. Like, we all have workout clothes or
Yeah,
whatever, where we're like, oh, this doesn't fit quite right, but I don't want to throw it out. I'm going to wear it. Don't pick that day to do the meditation, because it will
right.
distract you, um, and be very irritating. Just learn from my experience, please. Uh, so those are like types of meditations. We do need to take a quick break, and when
Yeah.
we come back, we can talk a little bit about what sort of health benefits are related to meditating, and then we'll get into the deeper, like, overcoming obstacles. So we will be right back, everyone. Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential. With expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind hearted accountability, and a supportive network, the Year of You is more than just a goal setting group, it's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes, or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality. Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, I promised we'd talk about some health benefits, and some, mental, emotional benefits to meditating. We've talked about this on the show before, so I'm going to breeze through this. It can lower your blood pressure, reduce your stress, improve your sleep, improve your emotional regulation, um, increase your focus, enhance your mood, reduce aggression, create greater adaptability in your life. And it does, via science, tell us that it creates a healthier aging process. So if, like me, you are struggling with aging gracefully, start meditating. It will help. It can create a greater sense of empathy and connection with other people. And it can help with symptoms of specific conditions. And so I have this list here because I want to highlight again, which I keep saying, but I feel like I need to keep saying, you pick a type of meditation to create a type of outcome. If you are
Yep.
struggling with anxiety, there are types of meditation that will specifically cater to helping that struggle. So it can help with depression and anxiety disorders. It can help with cardiovascular disease, which is bananas.
Yep.
It can actually help these things. It can help with dementia and Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, insomnia, ADHD, and chronic pain. So when you are struggling, think about the type of meditation that will help any of those struggles and focus on that to begin with.
And oftentimes YouTube, Headspace, Calm, um, Insight Timer, you can search ADHD meditation, you can search insomnia meditation, and they'll help you.
Yeah.
I have a son who does not like to meditate, does not meditate, never wants to meditate, blah, 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 except when he has a really bad migraine. And then I put on a meditation. And guess what? The only thing, I mean, we do medicine, we'll do Tylenol because he's still young, like he's not taking anything heavy
Yeah.
duty. We'll do lavender bath, we do all those other things. But guess what's the thing that when he's laying in bed going, oh, this hurts so bad, I put on a meditation and then he falls asleep.
Yeah.
And it's a migraine specific meditation.
Right.
Um, I have had a panic attack in the middle of the night, and it took 2 panic attack meditations to get me out of it, but it got me out of it.
Right.
enough that I actually was able to fall back to sleep, which was amazing.
Yeah, I remember that. I
Um,
remember that day. That was fantastic.
yeah, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it took two 17-minute long meditations. And by the end of the first one, I still couldn't take a deep breath. But by the end of the second one, and like they were cumulative, like it wasn't like the first didn't work. It was,
Yeah,
I needed
yeah,
them
it
both.
built on each other.
Yeah. And they both had two totally different styles. It was fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
But you know, so maybe for you, maybe you start with a sleep time meditation,
I think it's a great place to start. Yeah.
right? That was just one more thing I wanted to say before we move on to the next section is there are some wonderful kid meditations out there,
Yeah.
and there's nothing that says adults can't enjoy kid meditations, right? There's some
Yeah.
wonderful story time like story
And
meditations.
like my son, he will listen to the meditate. So my just to be clear, I play meditations for both my kids at bedtime, and I now they have to do them. Have to. I'm making them. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's effective if you make people, but I'm making them do them in the mornings. But at night, my son listens to a particular practitioner. She calls herself Mrs. Honeybee. She's very cool, but she does all these like very clever story time, like you're talking about, Tova, story time type meditations that are based on like superheroes. So I don't know how she must, I don't know if she licenses it or not, but whatever. There's like a Spider-Man one, there's a Super Mario
Yeah.
Brothers one, there's a Star Wars one, and he loves them and he listens, like he doesn't go to bed without them
I mean,
at this point.
whereas like my kids listen to Frog and Toad
Yeah,
every night. The same stories. At this point, it is a meditation because we know every single word because we have been listening to, I mean, for my almost 8-year-old, um, it it will be has listened to it his entire life,
right.
every single night. And then like Amazon has some phenomenal like deep sleep meditation sounds. I mean, I listen, I'll say, Amazon or Alexa, whatever, I'm saying it quietly so nothing happens. Um, play meditation. And that's what I sleep to. And oftentimes, my kids will do it too.
Yeah.
And because and you can actually choose the frequency, like if you
Yep.
want like a higher frequency or a lower frequency or whatever. But you can have deep sleep sounds. So, you can sort of baby step your way there. There is a phenomenal little monkey that we found during the pandemic on YouTube.
Yep.
I don't I don't know anything other than I just searched like yoga monkey meditation on YouTube.
Hmm.
I wish I knew more information other than that. But like I find him to be delightful for stretching and deep breathing. I do make a child do it with me, so it's not just me and this yoga monkey. But like, why not? It could just be me and the yoga monkey. I find him
Absolutely.
very relaxing.
Yeah.
Like, so so there are great, great options to whether you pick it because you need it for your cardiovascular health or you just want a kids one to kind of baby step your way there. That like there are some very legitimate different ways to warm your way up. Warm. I'm mixing a variety of metaphors, but like step into meditation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some obstacles to meditating that are very common. I think every single person who's ever meditated has encountered at least one of these, if not all of these problems. The first one is a wandering mind. You've mentioned this a couple times, Tova. I think I have as well. And the reality is, no matter what kind of meditation you're doing, whether it's a walking meditation, guided, silent, whatever, it's normal for your mind to wander. It's like I don't know anyone whose mind doesn't wander just generally, but specifically during meditation.
Yeah.
Um the whole the all you do when your mind wanders when you're meditating is go, okay, my mind's wandering, and then let it go. So you can't chastise yourself. You can't be like, oh, I just if only I could really focus, this would work. that's not going to help you deal with a wandering mind. That's just going to make your mind wander even more, because then you're going to go down the road of, I never get to like get myself focused, and you just go down a whole rabbit hole of nonsense if that happens. So acknowledging that you're having a wandering or an intrusive thought and going, okay, that's an intrusive thought, and then moving on from it is key to dealing with a wandering mind. Another thing you can do is breath counting. So if you have ever done any deep breathing exercises, or not, frankly, but you've probably seen them on TV or heard about them. Um, if you do like box breathing or something that wherein you're counting your breaths in and counting your breaths out, that helps you refocus. So focusing on breathing is always a key way to get your mind to recenter. Um, so that's the first one. The next one
And
is
just
restlessness.
as an
Oh, go ahead.
aside, real fast, I would practice your breathing when you're not meditating, just so you know how to do it. I was working with my son yesterday who was having some anxiety and then talking about anxiety at school. And I was like, all right, I need you to take a deep breath. And he took not a deep breath. He was like, ooh. And I'm like, well, no. I was like, okay, we're gonna go in through the nose. And he was like, I'm like, okay, so we like, and if you're by yourself, like you kind of want that voice in your head being like, no, we know how to do this. Like we've done it before.
Right.
So like practice your deep breathing. I know that sounds absurd, but practice your deep breathing anytime where you're like, okay, I'm going to go in for 4 and hold for, I mean, I like box breathing. So I do the in
Yeah.
for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Do what you do whatever gets you to, because it makes me take a deep breath. That's why I
Right.
like box breathing. It makes me take a deep breath, but you do what you want to do, but do whatever it will so that when you are meditating and you do some breath counting, you're like doing it and you're not like my son when I say take a deep breath and he's like, I'm like, that's no, that's not going to work for me. We're going to have to do it again. We're going to keep doing this until
Uh,
you get it right,
yeah.
buddy.
That's such a kid thing to
So
do,
then you can
though.
be
Makes
anxious about
sense.
your breathing too.
Right, right. Do your breathing right. Um, no, I think that's a great bit of advice, right? Like to, and it's also just so good for you, like in the middle of the day, to just stop for 30 seconds and do a little bit of deep breathing. I don't know, that's meditative in and of itself. So give it a try.
Heck yeah.
Um, Another common struggle is restlessness, where like you can't sit still, or you're twitching, or you're constantly itching your face, or moving a lot to the point of distraction. And like everybody moves. I'm not so I like I'm not this one I struggled with a little bit because I don't sit perfectly still while meditating because I'm human and I move. Um, but I think the point is, if you're so restless that you're like constantly moving and it becomes disruptive to the process. So I talked about body scans in the beginning, or maybe not in the beginning, at some point. I know I mentioned body scans. Body scans are literally what it says. Sounds like, oh, I gotta stop using that word. My kids have ruined me with the literallys.
Literally.
Literally, it's not literally. It's not the right word, kids. So but it is what it sounds like. So you scan from the top of your body to the bottom and check in with your whole being and what it's doing. And you can even, some of the meditations for body scans um, really go into very specific detail about parts of your body, to the point of like, relax your earlobes, like, which I don't even know how to do. So that one always stresses me out. Don't do that one. So like, I don't
So
know.
I think that's a really important point, by the way, because last night my son and I were also working on body scans,
Yeah.
and he was like, I can't relax my toes. And I always start with the toes. And he's like, they're twitching. And I'm like, okay, this is causing us more stress.
Right.
So like for me, like I'll let you get back to how to
Yeah,
body
yeah.
scan, but for me, once I stopped worrying about whether I moved my body, I moved my body a lot less.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was when I was thinking about whether I was moving my body a lot that meant I moved my body a lot,
Yeah.
which is confusing and annoying and very frustrating. But when I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be still. I'm not supposed to be moving. It was like when I was doing Reiki and I did Reiki with somebody who's in Maine. And I was like, it finally clicked that I could lay on my side versus on my back. And she's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And I was like, oh my God, it doesn't matter. She's
Yeah,
like, no, it doesn't matter. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like you just, we add so many rules to things. And so
yes.
when I realized that like if I had to scratch an itch, it was when I wouldn't let myself scratch the itch on my forehead. And
That's it
then
exactly.
suddenly all I spent meditation doing was obsessing about how my forehead itched.
Right. So there's a couple other things you can do for restlessness that I think address exactly what you're talking about. One that I really like is tensing and relaxing.
Hmm.
So like whether you tense your hands and then let them go, or your toes or feet, toes, whatever. You tense your legs, whatever body part, doesn't really matter. The whole point is that it then grounds you into your body and you are more connected to your body in that moment, and you're less likely to be all twitchy. This also works for restless legs, just as a side note, like because I weirdly
It
have had restless legs lately, and that's one thing I do, and it helps.
It can also work for panic attacks. That was
Yes,
one of the techniques in the one of the in the second meditation was tensing, and
and
she
then
started
releasing.
and releasing, and she started with my face. Well, she started with
Hmm.
my feet, but by the time we got to the top, I didn't even realize my face was clenched. And then I didn't realize my shoulders were so
Like
high.
up near your ears.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was like, I can't clench them. They are so clenched. Get on YouTube and see me do my visual. Um, and then, but eventually I was able to bring them down.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that was like pulling them down.
Right.
But then
Right.
everything else relaxed a lot. Because you can't relax when your shoulders are clenched. Like you cannot be relaxed.
No, I mean mine is always my jaw. Like I'm always grinding the
Yeah.
crap out of my teeth, much to my dentist's dismay. But like, yes, you can't relax when any part of your body is tense like that. Another thing you can do is holding an object. So, like, while we're recording our podcast, I'm almost always holding a rock, like, or a crystal or something. And it's not just because I'm wooey, it's because it helps me not fidget everywhere else. So, our producer doesn't yell at me for banging the microphone. Like, because I use my hands when I talk, I move when I talk. And if I'm holding this happens to be a crystal, but if I'm holding a rock in my hand, I'm far less likely to be moving my whole body. I'm more likely to be sitting more still. And you can do the same thing when you're meditating. It can help you feel grounded and calm and connected to the earth and to yourself. So I highly recommend it. I know it might feel weird at first, and it doesn't have to be a crystal. You don't have to be like all wooey and spiritual about it. It can literally just be a rock you pick up from outside. The point is the physical weight of it in your hand causes you to be more focused in. Um, so I would try it if I were you. The last thing that I'll say about restlessness is if you really struggle with this, if this is something that is like super hard for you, try doing some stretching or do your exercise before you meditate if you exercise. And at the very end of all of that, I will say if it's like, this is impossible, it's never going to happen, meditate while you're walking. Do a movement meditation because
Or
then,
while you're rowing or while
yeah.
you're biking, preferably a stationary bike.
Yeah, please, please. Don't do it while you're driving. But do a meditation while moving, and then you won't have to worry about this. Um, Couple other things that get in the way while we're meditating: distress and discomfort. So, as we've talked about several times, there is a difference between distress and discomfort. If you are feeling distress while meditating, I would suggest you think about, like what is causing the distress and then address that specifically. Like if you need to go to therapy, go to therapy. If you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. Um, Distress is a signal that something is wrong. If you are feeling discomfort, that is different, and that may be like it may be a red flag. It may be like, hey, I need to think about this. Why is this making me uncomfortable? Am I uncomfortable because of the silence and it's making me think about stuff I don't want to think about? Am I uncomfortable because I didn't grow up with spirituality and I'm listening to a spiritual meditation and it's weirding me
Mm.
out? Like where is the discomfort coming from? And can you work through it? I think working through discomfort is very good for us and it's healthy to do. Working through distress is not necessarily good for you. You may need help to deal with distress. Very
Um,
different.
I have a lot of thoughts about that. We need to take a quick break or we're going to forget to take one more break.
Yeah.
So I know this isn't the best break time, but we're going to do it right now anyway. So we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Hey there, pod family. Have you ever wished you could stay in the loop with a little slice of transformation and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox? Well, you're in luck because now you can. Introducing our fantastic newsletter, your VIP pass to all things exciting and informative. Join our community of growth minded souls. Get the hottest topics delivered right to your inbox. It's quick, easy, and totally free. Just head over to our website at goboldlyinitiative.com and sign up for our newsletter today. Don't miss out on the next big thing. Stay connected with us. Subscribe now and get ready for some big, bold love. All right, welcome back, everyone. So I agree on the distinction between distress and discomfort. I also have one more thought, though. Sometimes it's just not the right meditation for the day.
Yeah.
And that does not mean, I think, when you're like 12 minutes into a 15-minute meditation, right? Like when you're 12 minutes into a 15-minute meditation and you're feeling discomfort, that probably means, as you were saying very eloquently, like there's something you need to be working on. There's something here. There's a there, right? Like, and think about what it is and think about why it's bothering you and all of that good stuff. And is there therapy that needs to be done? Is there inner work that needs to be done? Sometimes, however, you're 30 seconds into a meditation or a minute and you're like, I love this woman and today her voice annoys me.
Right.
Or I don't like this. Or like, this doesn't sound right today. Like there's just something. And I know it's happened to you.
Yep.
I know it's happened to me. And sometimes it means that I go from having time for a 15-minute meditation to a 10-minute meditation, or for a 10 to a 7-minute, because now I have to find a different one. But I always know it's worth it because I know if I stick it out, it is never worth it. It is, like I said, it's not the same as sticking through when I'm discomfortable. Don't know why I got stuck on that word. Um, experiencing discomfort. But it is worth it sometimes to just be like, you know what, this meditation isn't for me today. Meditation is still for me today, but this meditation isn't for me today. I'm going to find something that speaks to me better.
Yeah. And, one of the things I've learned over the years is it's okay to stop a meditation. It's important for me personally when I do that to think about why,
Yes.
and to not sort of like brush it off like whatever. Only because that whatever caused me to be like, no, I'm not doing that today is going to stick with me for the whole day. And whatever it is, if it's feeling anxious, if it's feeling sad, if it's not wanting to like listen to somebody tell me what to do, I don't know, whatever, whatever it is that made me not able to do that meditation that day, like that thing is not going away. So I often try to, after I do a different meditation, I often try to think about like, all right, why was her voice so irritating today and not yesterday? What is it
Right.
triggering in me? And that way I can work through it at some point during the day and not let it sort of bog me down. I can't always figure it out. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm some perfect person who like always knows what's going on, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I just can't stand that
Well,
lady today.
this is, I think, where it's very helpful to have either an accountability partner, a coach, a journal, somewhere where you can make a note of it, where you
Yeah.
say, Riley, I did this meditation, and you go, like, you don't remember a movie ending, but you would remember if there were twice that there was two meditations that were similar
Yeah.
that bothered me. You'd
Yeah,
be like, the last time you tried a meditation like that, it bothered you. Like that's something you would remember.
that's true. I would absolutely remember that.
Um,
Couldn't quote a movie to save my life.
right, right. But or I would put it down in my journal, or if you had a coach and you said you've made a note and you're like, well, when I talk to her or I text her or email, this didn't fit for me this week. And I
Yes.
think that is where it's really helpful because maybe it is a one-off. Maybe she's just reminding you of some like maybe her voice is the same as an antagonist on a TV show you happen to be watching.
Right.
Like that's I mean it could mean nothing or it could be a trend. And that's where it is important to have, if you're not sharing your meditation with other people, a journal to at least keep track of these things. But if you are sharing with it, to share it with somebody else to see like what was going on here.
Yeah. And I think I just want to highlight one thing you just said. And it's I didn't really say this before. It could be nothing. Like it could just
Yeah.
be that day you're like, I don't really want to go down the river of lotus flowers and like burn away my bad feelings. Like today I
Yes.
want to, think about sunshine and flowers. It
Yeah.
could be like I just don't feel like it today. And that is
Right.
also okay.
I mean, there could be like I said about the whole, I was hoping to feel like I could go for abundance and I just needed peace. Like there could be
Yeah.
like there's too much in my life going on right now.
Right.
I just need calm. I
Right.
just need my meditations to focus on bringing calm and peace and
Yeah.
not adding more.
And I think it's an important opportunity to learn to listen to your inner voice. We haven't talked
Yes.
about inner voice in a while, so let's do that now. Um, one thing meditation can really help with is learning to listen to your gut, listen to your intuition and your instincts. And if you get that feeling like, I just don't want to do this one today, or I just don't, you know what? I really need to like walk and listen to something today. Um, you it's a like I said, it's a great opportunity to develop and grow that intuition and that ability to hear your own voice telling you what you need, as opposed to like us saying, hey, you should be meditating every day and it should look like this and whatever, which we don't do, but
Well,
if we did.
and we talked about this and we haven't talked about this today, but we have talked about it. So I'm just going to say it. When we're talking about inner voice, when you're meditating for 5 minutes during your day, whether it's the middle of the day, the end of the day, the beginning of the day, if you're tapping into your inner voice, it helps you throughout your entire day, right? So whether you're using the meditation to just have 5 minutes of silence, 5 minutes to calm yourself, 5 minutes to refocus on your gratitude, 5 minutes to focus on your goals for the day, like whatever your 5 minutes are that you're doing, or your 20 minutes, or your 30 minutes, or your seven, whatever, you are reconnecting to yourself, however you're doing it. Like it does not matter. We've given you 15 different ways. So whether you're doing monkey yoga or you're like in a corner listening to Frog and Toad, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, you're taking some time to listen and connect to yourself.
Yeah.
And that means that you have a stronger connection through the other 23 and a half plus hours of your day. And so when you either need to take a moment for yourself, or whether you need to make a quick decision, or whether you need to recenter yourself, whatever you need to be doing throughout the day, you are closer to that inner voice than you normally would be. And that is the real magic of meditation. In addition to all of the health benefits that you rattled off.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it for me, and it's something that as I can see, my kids are getting more anxious right now in this particular season of our lives. I need to meditate so that I can be calmer for them
Yeah.
because my anxiety is also increasing. And then they feed off of that. And then it is this like awful hamster wheel of anxiety.
Of course, of course. And I think all of us, as anyone who's a parent knows, or even like even if you don't have kids, but you have pets, like, that that pets and your kids and people around you will feed off your energy
I
and
was gonna say anyone
whatever,
who interacts with other living things.
right? Unless they're, super good at boundaries, which I mean, that's like extra good. But um I want to be very clear that about the how to of it all. So we've talked a lot about different types of meditation, why it's good for you, ways to overcome things that get in the way of meditation. I want to offer up the idea, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but just to be extra clear about it, that mindfulness is really meditation, right? And so if you're just starting out, if you're like, I've never meditated, I don't think I can do it, I don't know. One really great place to start, well, like you said earlier, Tova, is sleep meditations, because those are probably the easiest. But beyond that is integrating intentional mindfulness throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you don't have to, like, I have a whole, I'm pointing like you all can see it. I have a whole meditation corner in my office where I meditate, and it's great and it works for me. But you don't have to do that to start out. You can start out by just like being more mindful while you're eating. And that can be a sensory meditation, whether you want to call it that
Yes.
or not. It could be like, I'm noticing the way the food feels in my mouth. I'm understanding the scent of the coffee I'm drinking. It's always coffee. Sorry, everybody. Um, you can mindfully eat or drink and notice how it feels in your body. Am I feeling too full? Am I feeling satiated? Whatever it is. And that
Yep.
is like the beginning of meditation. Um, you can do mindful walking, as we've talked about. You can do mindfulness in your conversations with other people where you are doing, where you are active listening in a very like focused and intentional way, and active communication. And that is mindfulness, and that is ultimately a type of meditation. Um, you can pay attention to your thoughts throughout the day. Like what sort of what's the word I want? What sort of obtrusive thoughts are popping into your head? That's not the
Mm-hmm.
right word, but there is a word. Um, and notice those and be mindful about them, and be mindful about what we talked about earlier, where you can say, oh, that's an interruptive type thought. Okay, now I'm going to let it go. I know I say it like that and it sounds so flippant, like it's super easy. It's really very hard. And I understand that. I
Well,
don't
and
I
like
don't want
I mean, I really think a great way to start, I was gonna say winning the war of intrusive thoughts, but that's a little aggressive, um, is to write them down.
yeah.
It's just when you some pop it in, just like write it down.
Yeah,
And
and you can type it into your notes app. I think you do
yeah,
that sometimes.
I do sometimes.
Um
Because it's interesting to see what pops up and be like, oh, I don't, because oftentimes it's stuff that I would say 50% of the time it's something I need to remember, and 50% of the time it's something I don't care about.
Yeah, or like something that I don't need to be worried about, right? Or
Yes,
like, and by
100%.
worry I mean like even thinking about, like it's irrelevant to my life, but it's popping into my head. Or like
Yeah.
this morning, I just so you all know that like this happens to all of us no matter how long you've been meditating. This morning I started thinking about a conversation I had like 6 years ago, and I was like, what in the why am I having this thought right now? This is crazy. And I was like, it was one of those conversations where I stuck my foot in my mouth and said something embarrassing and whatever. But like, why am I thinking about this now? And I realized, of course, I was driving behind the person I had had the conversation with, and that's why I was having the thought. But like, also, it's such an obtrusive thought that has
Yeah.
no bearing on anything happening now. And so I can let that go. I can be like, well, that's kind of silly, and be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's going to happen to all of us. And I think if you are, you know, let me rephrase that. Build on a mindfulness practice. Start with mindfulness if you're brand new to meditation, and build up to the longer, guided meditations. Start with the things that feel good to you, that feel right for you, and just see how it goes from there. Which brings us to our homework for the day, or for the week, I should say, because that is really your homework, is
Hmm.
to think about what kind of meditation feels right for you, if you even want to call it meditation, right? And just try it out. Try out different types. If you want suggestions from us, you can reach out to us on social media at Go Boldly Together. And I always have a meditation suggestion on hand. I'm more than happy to send you one. And you can try it out and see how it goes for you. Do not start at 20, 30 minutes. Like start at 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
unless you've been meditating for a long time and you're like, oh, but I've been doing this forever.
I mean, honestly, there are even some really phenomenal 1 minute ones. Like, I
Yeah.
know that sounds wacky, but like, there are some really like wonderful resets at 1 minute.
Yeah.
And it's not cheating. It's a lovely 1 minute reset.
No, my the meditation I do with my son in the morning, because he only does them on repeat. We don't try out a lot of different ones. He likes what he likes, and that's that, which is fine. But he does a 3 minute one in the morning, and it's great for him. He sits there with his headphones on, he does 3 minutes, and he's like, okay, I'm done with this. And I think that we get in our own way with thinking
Mhm.
it has to be a certain way. So let go of those preconceived notions. Try it out. Let us know how it goes. If you do what I mean, I use Insight Timer all the time, and you can like directly share them to Instagram. So if you do one on Insight Timer, share it to Instagram and tag us so we know you've done it and we can cheer you on. It's kind of fantastic. Um, and that is the homework for the week. If you are, well, you know what? I do want to remind everyone, if you're struggling with all of this, we have a free inner voice course. And
Mm.
in that inner voice course, we recommend certain meditations. So if you're like, I don't even know where to start, this is too much, I don't want to think about it, sign up for our free course. You can find it on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com, or like I said before, on any of our social media. In our bios, we have links, and you can sign up for it. It's free. It's 7 days, I think,
7 days.
and it just shows up in your inbox in your email. So it's super easy to do. I would suggest you try it out if that is something you're struggling with. And I think that's it for this week, Tova, unless you have anything else.
I think that's it.
All right, everyone. Well, happy meditating. And we'll be back next week with another how to episode for living your limitless life. So have a great week, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.